right, Convent Stuart Hall seniors, you may be seated. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this beautiful graduation ceremony. We have so many wonderful people in the audience, but for those of you who have not met me, I am Dr. Anne Marie Kreutzarek, President of Schools, and I have the best job in the world working with young people, and I think today, in the voices from them and from our high school leadership, you're going to get a real good feel of how much this process of education is a passion project for us all. So let's begin by welcoming parents and grandparents, godparents, sisters, brothers, uncles, family, friends, and of course our alumni. Alumni, if you're in the audience, please stand. We do want to recognize you. All alum, Convent Stuart Hall. Woo! So glad to see you all back. So how wonderful to commemorate this graduation in this beautiful, historic venue, the Palace of Fine Arts. Maybe some of you are not as familiar of the history of this beautiful structure, but it marks a resurrection in the life of San Francisco. Following the devastating 1906 earthquake and fire, San Francisco was inspired to show the world how it had risen from the ashes. So in 1910, business and civic leaders convened to discuss making the city the site of the century's first great World's Fair, a grand exposition in honor of the completion of the Panama Canal. In 2 hours in 1910, the city leaders raised $4 million and beat the competitors like New Orleans and Washington, D.C., to host the 1915 Panama Pacific International Exposition. Widely considered the most beautiful structure in the exhibit, this Palace of Fine Arts was the work of California architect Bernard Maybeck. Like other features of the fair, the palace was meant to come down at the close of the fair, and yet it did not. This building has a special relationship to where all of our students are in school in the Flood Mansion, because it's a visible, iconic structure from many of the different windows in the Flood house. In fact, the floods required that that home be completed in 1914 so that they could view the construction of this beautiful exposition. And this is noted as one of the favorite structures of James Flood. The Flood family so loved this exposition that as it closed, it didn't want to let go of the view and the memory. So it purchased a few of the plants and ferns from the Palm Court. So if you've been in our cortile, you may or may not know, but those large fern trees were actually part of the Court of Palms, brought here by the country of Australia, and have had a permanent home in the cortile for over 100 years. So we feel a little connected to this beautiful place, and it feels a lot like home. So as we tap into that history, today we also come to celebrate the history and historic educational vision that began in France in 1800 and stays true to the vision of its foundress to this day, May 25th, 2023, quite appropriately the feast of our foundress, Madeleine Sophie Barras. She started an education that has stood the test of time, offering a timely and timeless education of mind, body, and spirit. In the constitutions of the Society of Sacred Heart, Madeleine Sophie Barras declared through a Sacred Heart education that people would become ever more aware of truth, love, and freedom, that they would discover the significance of their lives and devote themselves to others, that they would take part creatively in the common effort to transform the world for good. In an ever-changing world, we might not be sure what the future looks like or what challenges these graduates will encounter. But the always prophetic Janet Erskine Stewart, RSCJ, observed in 1913, "It is not easy to write of things that are actually in being between a past that is only beginning to lengthen into the distance and a future that is still unknown. Events move quickly and living things modify themselves even more while they move. Therefore, a Sacred Heart education is meant to develop agility, adaptability, and resilience, offering a timeless way of being." So today, I ask you to join with me on a blessing of these graduates as they make their way into the world with that agility and that resilience. So please stand as we pray. Loving God, you have called these young people to life and gifted them in many ways. Help them to become all you desire of them. Lead them to choose the path of life you have planned for them. Open their hearts to listen to your call and guide them with your Holy Spirit, that they may have the courage and confidence to respond. Enkindle in their hearts and the hearts of others the desire to make the world a better place. Amen. Madeleine Sophie Barras, pray for us. Rose Philippine Duchesne, pray for us. Janet Erskine Stewart, pray for us. St. Francis of Assisi, pray for us. Please be seated as we welcome Rachel Simpson, head of Convent High School, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Hello, everyone. I am very honored today to be in front of you as division head at Convent High School, in front of these wonderful young people. And as Anne-Marie just said, it is truly a privilege and a joy to have spent the last 4 years with each of them. I'm very pleased today to introduce McKenna Kramer. She was chosen today as class speaker, nominated by her peers to speak on behalf of the class. McKenna is known and respected for her sharp, analytical mind. She's an excellent reader and writer. And during the height of the pandemic, during her sophomore year, McKenna started a crossword puzzle for the Broadview, coming up with fun clues revolving around that week's articles. Now, as managing editor, helping to run weekly meetings with the school library, I see that she has a level of confidence in her voice that makes people around her want to pay attention and listen. And I think you won't be disappointed today. So I'm going to invite Mr. Spate and Dr. Kreitzarek again to come up and distribute McKenna's medal as class speaker. And then McKenna also, if you come down to the podium to present your speech. Welcome, McKenna.
A nice little bench. Okay.
It's a soapbox.
Yeah, soapbox. Thank you, Dr. Kreitzarek. Thank you for everyone for being here today. Before I begin, I want to express a brief moment of gratitude for everyone who made this event possible. This is a truly beautiful space, and I feel so lucky that we are all able to graduate here. So yeah, I think that's a proud moment. So 7 years ago, I delivered a speech at my elementary school graduation. Without sounding too biased, I'd like to think it was pretty good. I had a Michelangelo quote in there, and I even referenced the Disney Channel original movie, Camp Rock 2: The Final Jam. Now, the most important thing you need to know about my 5th grade speech is that I messed up. Now, I don't remember what I messed up on, but I remember the way it made me feel. My cheeks burned this crimson red, and my glasses, then pink and baby blue, slid down my nose with sweat. The most ironic part about the situation was my speech was called Mistakes Are Magic and aimed to highlight the virtue of accepting and growing from one's errors. Turns out, having just 10 years of wisdom is not sufficient for delivering advice of that magnitude, and a betting man might say that 17, almost 18, barely is either. Nevertheless, I want to, in my brief amount of time here today, talk to the class of 2022, specifically the Convent class of 2022, about the power of messing up. As I'm sure our parents, relatives, friends, and definitely teachers can attest, we are a class of perfectionists. I do not just mean the pulling all-nighters academic perfectionists, although there are definitely plenty of us, but also the superstar athletes, artists, and friends, all of whom hold themselves to near unachievable standards. This, of course, is a value in many ways. We are an accomplished class that endured challenges, ever-changing schedules, subjectively enforced dress codes, and most recently, a crying circle at the senior retreat. The fact that we demand perfection from ourselves is the reason we are all here today, having survived arguably the hardest 4 years of our life. However, where perfectionism becomes a problem is when it is all-consuming and discourages us from taking healthy and important risks. I remember the time I cried all night because I did badly on a chemistry quiz sophomore year. I then proceeded to show Mr. Mobley a video of me crying. I don't know where he is, but I'm still very sorry for that. I was 15. I do not know why I did that. Perfectionism is also the reason that I didn't take advantage of the state-of-the-art art classes at our school because I'm not a naturally gifted artist and I was scared that I wouldn't excel. I know each of the graduates, and I'm sure guests, have stories of hours spent milling over failure and opportunities not taken up because we didn't want to disappoint ourselves. I firmly believe, however, that learning to move past our mistakes is a crucial part of maturity and something I hope each of us can strive for as we move beyond our high school years. So, without further ado, here's my 3-step plan for beating mistake phobia. Step 1, say yes. In college or wherever fate takes you post-high school, I urge you to try things beyond your comfort zone and not to quit immediately when the going gets tough. It's through challenging experiences and, yes, messing up, that the pedestal of perfection gets just a little bit lower. Step 2, know when to quit. Allow yourself to stop something without regarding it as a personal failure. I tried field hockey, lacrosse, track and field, and badminton here at Convent, and I only stuck with one of those, bonus points if you can guess which. Letting myself give things a go without the expectation that I would be the next Olympian fundamentally altered my relationship with perfection. The third and arguably most important step, surround yourself with supporters. Not just yes men, but people who will call you out when you need calling out and be there for you when you need being there for. These people will see you through your failures and hopefully, if you've picked right, set you up for more of them. That is who is here today. It is our grandparents. I love you, Pops and Grandma. Parents, sisters, aunts and uncles, teachers, administration, and friends who are the reason we stand today as graduates. It is through their support, laughter, and encouragement to make mistakes that we have reached this moment together. So, to all of my classmates, the remarkable class of 2023, may you continue breaking barriers, challenging the status quo, and taking responsible risks in whatever endeavors you choose to pursue. I'm immensely and eternally grateful that our paths crossed. Thank you.
This is quite a little situation here. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. This is a really nice day, and we're so glad you could join us. My name is Tony Farrell, and I am the division head for Stuart Hall High School. And today's Stuart Hall student speaker was nominated by his peers to speak on behalf of the class, perhaps because there is no class where Lev Cohen has made a mystery of his thoughts and opinions, sometimes with great energy and passion, but always with a sincere intention to foster an environment where disagreement can take place agreeably. Now, you know you've achieved something notable when your name doubles as a verb. Perhaps you've heard the phrase, Steph's got a Steph, in reference to when Steph Curry shows his prowess on the basketball court, when he is not just a name, but an action. When it comes to making one's voice heard in class, Lev's got a Lev. Lev's also got a Lev when he's DJing, coaching tennis, in fact, playing to the semifinals of the North Coast Section Championships as a first-team All-League tennis player, and as a self-proclaimed Convent and Stuart Hall ping pong champion. Lev was a consistent leader and speaker in our chapel programming and served our student government as student body operations officer. I am delighted to welcome Lev Cohen to the podium after we give him his special medal. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed faculty, proud parents, and most importantly, the resilient and extraordinary graduating class of 2023. I stand before you today with a profound sense of joy and belief in each and every one of my classmates. But before I get into it, I want to thank my boys sitting over there for selecting me to give this speech. I also feel it is quite fitting to begin by reflecting on how I was communicated this great honor. Following in the footsteps of the usual advance given by our school about responsibilities and events, I was told last Friday that I'd be giving this speech. And when I asked Mr. Farrell why he didn't tell me earlier, he said, and I quote, "You had AP exams and stuff." But now standing up here, I truly feel that he knew the degree of comfort I would have talking about this school and our amazing graduating class. So as we gather here on this momentous day of our high school graduation, we reflect upon the journey and the weight of expectations that have shaped us. Expectations have lived in each of us for quite a while now. Whether they're academic, artistic, social, or athletic, we love and we hate these expectations. But as we stand on the precipice of our futures, let us not be confined by these expectations. Instead, let us embrace them as a catalyst for growth, for pushing beyond our limits, and discovering the incredible potential that lies within each and every one of us. In our community, we are expected to go to college. We are expected to take the most rigorous courses. We are expected to perform athletically. We are expected to expose our artistic talent. And most of all, we are expected to leave this place with a greater sense of belonging. Those expectations can sometimes feel like requirements. And it's hard to live up to so much while being an actual high school student. We define success in such critical areas, it can threaten to derail our aspirations. I see knowledge in this grade beyond what is expected. I see students who are able to define success on their own terms. I see people with the agency to elevate the fellow person using the tools provided during their time at Convent and Stuart Hall. I see leaders who will endure the truths and realities of our time. If someone were to ask me what I learned most here at Convent and Stuart Hall, I would respond with the ability to think. The ability to think away from a goal that falls within the expectation of others, an ability to think consciously about decisions, and most of all, an ability to think beyond the betterment of I and more towards we. I think of Connor, Alex, and Oliver, with little to no experience in the sport of tennis, joining the team with me this year, embracing the fun of high school sports, and leaving Mr. Clemens' AP stats class early a couple too many times. I'm sorry. When I think of themes in this graduating class, I think of the word we. I think of our senior retreat and our ability to acknowledge the internal mutual respect line that has been fortified for the last 4 years. I truly believe relationships grow when spending time together in real life, not virtually. So naturally, one might imagine that our grade, heavily impacted by the pandemic, would not be as together as other classes were. That is not the case, and although on an individual level, there cannot and will not ever be a perfect understanding of the classmate sitting next to you, there is a line of respect so deeply rooted in the mutual understanding that we cannot grow without the knowledge of one another. Another expectation of ours is to take at least one semester of the class, Theory of Knowledge, TOK. Many of us, including myself, thought, well, that's an easy A. And it really was an easy A. What challenged us in TOK, above all, was not the achievement of a grade. It was to leave the class with an understanding of the acquisition, production, and sharing of knowledge. Knowledge is a powerful force that has the potential to transform lives, bridge gaps, and ignite change. Yet we also learn that knowledge is not meant to be hoarded or kept locked away. It is meant to be shared with those who seek it, with those who hunger for it, and with those who may not have the same opportunities we have been fortunate enough to receive at this school. The hall has air filled with knowledge, laughter, and pride. And we need to understand that our school has something that many other private schools don't have. That cornerstone to the hall, a soul, a character of its own, one can even call it a way of life. We quite often even call each other out in a constructive, that is not how the men of the hall behave when seeing a classmate out of line. What I'm afraid of most in my next chapter of life is that I may not find that same kind of true soul and character that I found here at at the Pine Octavia campus. I'm confident that we have left behind a continuance of constructive, soulful character that engulfs the boys and eventually the men of the hall. So what I ask of my fellow seniors, do not lose that soul that has developed here. Do not feel afraid to get distracted and laugh. And above all, do not be afraid to embrace the freedom of knowledge. Jill Scott says it best when she says, I'm taking my freedom, putting it in my car. Wherever I choose to go, it will take me far. Don't take that car too far, or you may end up back in Buckley's office. But as you drive that car full of knowledge and freedom, remember those who have been behind you along the way. Now, I'd like to take a moment to thank those golden people who have made the last 4 years so meaningful. To our parents, for your unwavering emotional support and financial sacrifices you made each day to send us to such an amazing school, we thank you. To Dr. Krazark, for your leadership and fight during the pandemic, we thank you. To Mr. Farrell, I wouldn't know where to start nor end. We have looked and will always continue to look to you for guidance, belief, and support. Your energy greeting each one of us every morning out front taught me what it means to be consistent. Your short yet personal speeches in chapel taught us how to make each person feel recognized, and your 8:30 a.m. Monday morning second semester AP Lit classes taught us what it meant to wake up a group of tired teenage boys. Mr. Buckley, Mr. PL, and Mr. BL, for providing the disciplinary, academic, and spiritual foundation to our school. We thank you. To Mr. E, thank you for believing in class after class of boys and providing a space for them to always laugh. I want to also thank you for stepping in as the tennis coach these last 2 years. Although it may not have looked like it, it was always a pleasure sharing the court with you. Mr. Guerrero and the college counseling team for supporting us through the college process and, let's just say, dealing with our parents. We definitely thank you. Ms. Maupin and Ms. Asdorian for always greeting me with a smile and a pink slip in hand when I showed up late to class. We thank you. All the other faculty and staff for especially providing a safe and secure school and for working tirelessly to educate us each and every day. We thank you. To Sage Dining for serving us healthy lunch daily. We thank you. And finally, the men of the hall. We may not have had anyone sent home from the Costa Rica school trip, but we did have an unforgettable time. Thank you for being the best group of brothers I could have asked to go to high school with. You guys kept every day interesting and truly made it exciting to go to school. Don't forget your roots and who the best ping pong player is in Stuart Hall history. No one's taken that title. It truly does pain me to say this final goodbye. It was not long ago that I walked into my first English class and saw Hebrew on the wall. Tzedek, tzedek, tirdof. Justice, justice, you shall pursue. Straight out of my bar mitzvah portion, I swear to God, it was right out of my bar mitzvah portion. And a reassuring moment I had knowing I'd chosen the right place to go to high school. So my fellow graduates, let us embrace this remarkable opportunity we have been given. Let us cherish the knowledge we have acquired and make it our duty to share it with others. Let us cultivate the courage to bypass expectations that surround us, embrace those that uplift us, and grow upon the fellow person. Thank you, and roll hall.
Well, many thanks to McKenna and Lev for such amazing speeches. And just imagine how Nobel Prize-winning amazing it would have been if you had more than 3 days to prepare it. So it was really incredible, and I think a testament to the quality of your education. So to you both, thank you. It's now time for some special medals that we have to distribute today. But before I read today's special awards, I would first like to congratulate and thank the entire class of 2023. You began high school in person, but ended your freshman year and began sophomore year on Zoom. And we all know what it feels like to be on Zoom. Despite the not in real life foundation and the impact of that foundation on your first 2 years, you're completing high school today as members of a strongly unified class and community where your creative, intellectual, athletic, joyful selves allowed themselves to be seen and to thrive. I want to first thank your families and friends, parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, siblings, cousins, who've supported you on your journey. As head of school, especially during a pandemic time, I've been so grateful for the ongoing partnership and trust that parents have shown faculty and school leadership as we guided you through times that were hard and studies that truly challenged you to stretch and grow. As you now step out into the world, I hope that you'll be anchored by the encouragement of your teachers who have educated you in the spirit of the Sacred Heart, coming from a place of love always, as they believed in your capacity to learn and to grow. As Dr. Krejcarek offered today, it is the feast of Madeleine Sophie. And while I stand here today wearing my alma mater robes from my master's degree, and my bachelor's for that matter, same place, I don't think I've learned more anywhere than I have in the last 27 years at Convent Stuart Hall. And that is in large part thanks to the foundational wisdom of the founders of the Sacred Heart mission to education. And so today, I'm not going to try and tell you what I think as much as share with you what I think is the deep legacy of the Sacred Heart education as expressed by some founding mothers. So in honor of her feast day today, Madeleine Sophie Barra, founder of the Society of the Sacred Heart in France in 1802, offers you this quote in remembrance of what she hoped your education would be. And I think both McKenna and Lev really expressed this already today. So may you remember from Madeleine Sophie Barra, your example, even more than your words, will be an eloquent lesson to the world. And when you're called to do the hard things, I'm going to ask you to remember Madeleine Sophie's line, courage and confidence. We should make it our support in our life of conflict. And then St. Rose Philippine Duchesne, who crossed the ocean on the ship Rebecca to bring Sacred Heart education to the United States. And she reminds you to remember how to be in the moment. May you take pride and solace in today, in this special moment, remembering these words from Philippine. Do not look back to the past, nor forward to the future. Claim only the present, for it holds God's will. There are no difficulties except for those who worry too much about tomorrow. Students and faculty know very well the educational wisdom of Janet Stuart, after whom, of course, Stuart Hall is named. In many ways, it's Janet Stuart who guides our contemporary approach to teaching and learning at Convent Stuart Hall. In addition to holding students to the highest standards with a belief in every student's ability to reach those standards, Janet Stuart was a passionate proponent of each individual's gifts and unique essence and way of being. So as you graduate today as a collected group of individuals, may you take with you Janet Stuart's words, and I quote, "There is a deep down unity, but there is no forced uniformity. The Spirit is one, but its manifestations are many. No one is made to order of this or that shape, but each gives what they can for the common good demanding for its own sake, as well as for each student's, that they should remain distinctly themselves." And finally, may all of us remember the succinct wisdom of Mother Hardy, who expanded Sacred Heart education across the United States, including reaching out to Cuba. This is one that maybe I could remember myself at times, perhaps Mr. Farrell too. To know how to speak, we must first learn to be silent. So today we have a few special awards to distribute as medals today. These honors reflect the school's commitment to educate to personal excellence and personal growth, and to serve something greater than oneself. Students, when your name is called, please come forward to receive your medal. I already see Dr. Kreitzarek and Mr. Spate and Mr. Guerrero are here to help. So first award, the Ursula Marston Award, is awarded to the student who has demonstrated an extraordinarily generous level of service to external communities, whether they are local, national, or international. And I always like this bit because it's like a guessing game, but it gets very easy to guess who it is. This year's recipient is a student whose presence is uniquely authentic and sincere. She accomplishes this by her worldly and creative aura. Her love for the performing and visual arts, alongside her mathematical mind, add color to why her life goal is to become a Disney Imagineer. Of the many experiences she has had combining her commitment to service and her artistry, this student invested hundreds of volunteer hours in the ranch at Tiburon's Fantastical Camp. She helped design and create spaces that gave life to the worlds of Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Star Wars, and even Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, bringing these fantastical worlds to life for young children. We truly believe that this student will be the next great Imagineer, and I'm delighted to announce Grace Sturmer as this year's recipient of the Ursula Marston Award for Service. Congratulations, Grace. The Alumni Awardee is selected by her classmates as the person who has most generously contributed to her class and the school community in the spirit of the Sacred Heart. This year's recipient is an outstanding community member in Convent's class of 2023. Service is a core aspect of who she is, and she is passionately committed to helping students find service activities that pertain to their individual interests, passions, or concerns. As this year's student body president, this year's recipient demonstrates incredible leadership and commitment to the overall well-being of the student community. She is always willing to support any initiative, however big or small. I'm most pleased to welcome Julia Kearney to stage to receive this year's Alumni Award for Generous Service. Congratulations, Julia. The Mary Aloysia Hardy Mind, Body, and Spirit Award is named for Mother Hardy, the religious of the Sacred Heart, who with courage, fortitude, and unfailing spirit brought Sacred Heart education to multiple continents. With Mother Hardy's example in mind, the recipient is selected by the faculty and athletics department as a student who has made the most significant contribution to the spirit of the school through athletic participation and leadership, while at the same time committing to a most rigorous course of study. This year's recipient is a 4-year soccer player, the captain of this year's record-breaking team when they became the first ever in Convent's soccer history, to make the North Coast section playoffs. Also a 4-year founding member and leader of the field hockey team, the senior captain received an all-league honorable mention. I'm delighted to announce Melanie Koch as this year's Hardy Mind, Body, and Spirit Award winner. The Maria Elena Yuchenko Award is named for Lenny Del Rosario, class of 1980, and is awarded by faculty to a graduate who has animated the community with her energy, leadership, and spirit. This year's recipient is the embodiment of school spirit. She has a special gift of knowing how to bring a community together, to be enthusiastic and inclusive. She works to bring everyone to the center of the action, always wishing a good day to whomever she passes. On the track, she is seen cheering on her fellow athletes and supporting the underclass students in their exercises. Our rising seniors are going to have to work really hard to fill in the missing cheers from the student next school year. I'm so pleased to welcome Tala El-Kadar to the stage to receive this year's Maria Elena Yuchenko Award. The Goal 5 Award in honor of Ari Reardon, class of 2008, recognizes a student who has shown incredible commitment to her personal growth and who has generously shared her unique gifts and talents with her community. This year's recipient shares her gifts in many ways. A passionate dancer, they have shared their passion in dance over Zoom presentations on the Sayufi Theater stage and memorably at the talent show in Costa Rica. They also took the initiative to share the importance of educating the community about the value of using inclusive pronouns. In their thoughts, in their creative art of dance, and throughout the curriculum, this year's Goal 5 Award recipient is an outstandingly thoughtful and creative communicator. The faculty is delighted to award this year's Goal 5 Award in honor of Ari Reardon to Isabella Infacino. The Faculty Scholar Award is awarded by faculty to a student who demonstrates a deep respect for intellectual values, whose commitment to learning is infused with deep curiosity and joy. According to her teachers, the recipient of this year's award demonstrates a motivation to learn with unparalleled commitment to excellence and originality of thought. She is an avid problem solver with great attention to detail. At the same time as being a community leader, this year's recipient also possesses humility, kindness, and an openness to learn from others, and the ability to open up the dialogue to include varied perspectives. This year's Faculty Scholar Award goes to Julia Kearney. So I'm going to pass over to Mr. Farrell for his awards and his remarks. Just before I go, I just want to say again to the class of 2023, what an amazing honor and pleasure it has been to live through this pandemic with you, to take you in sort of catch-up format to Costa Rica, and to do it all together in this great spirit of love and joy, getting the most out of life together. So thank you, class of 2023.
Yeah, I'll do that, yeah. And it is my pleasure and honor to offer the following recognitions and awards. And I have to say, like, I don't know what you're all experienced, but as you know, it's Miss Simpson's reading these things, like the number of you are like, that could be me. I wonder if I'm the winner. We have an award ceremony for faculty. I'm not eligible for any of the awards, and there's one where they start reading the like little verbatims of people. I'm like, oh, maybe this is my year. Oh. I'm not eligible. I'm not going to get it. So I just want to name that for a second, just for you all, as you're like, oh, he's describing me. This is it. It's just apologies in advance. So the St. Rose Philippine Duchenne Award, members of the faculty and the graduating class of Stuart Hall High School honor one student who most clearly models the goals and criteria of the Schools of the Sacred Heart in his commitment to spiritual, academic, and personal growth. This award is voted upon by seniors and by faculty, and this young man has modeled commitment to growth, commitment to maximum effort, and incredible commitment to our values as a school. This effort and commitment was recognized externally when he was offered an appointment to the United States Naval Academy. Internally, we recognize as the graduate who most exemplifies educating to the goals and criteria of a Sacred Heart education, Cole Seipolt, as the Duchenne Award winner for the class of 2023. The Janet Erskine Stewart Award. The faculty and administration of Stuart Hall High School honor a graduate who has modeled the goal of striving for personal growth in the service of the school. Today, we recognize a student who has shown resilience and determination throughout his time at the Hall, who has been an extraordinary role model to underclassmen who want to be positive big brothers as team leaders in the way that this student was to them when he was a senior. Our school has the culture that it does because young men such as this recipient care so very much about contributing to it. I am pleased to recognize Ruben Pearl with the Janet Erskine Stewart Award for the class of 2023. The Stuart Hall High School Alumni Award for Service. The Stuart Hall High School Alumni Award is presented to the graduating senior who best exemplifies the spirit of service as defined in the goals and criteria of Sacred Heart education. Many of our graduates were exceptional in some way in regard to service. And this fellow was exceptional in seeking opportunities, tutoring and mentoring middle school students in our community. This year, we recognize Leo Liao with the Alumni Award for Service. The James Rowcliffe Kessler Award, in honor and loving memory of James Rowcliffe Kessler, class of 2009, Stuart Hall High School recognizes a graduate who found, developed, and shared his voice in the visual, performing, or written arts. James was a poet and a musician, and in addition to being our starting third baseman, he was our senior class president. When he was diagnosed with cancer, he chose to live the final year of his life among us on campus, and we watched firsthand as he continued to share his very best, even as he suffered. Our adult community continues to be inspired by a poem that James composed in elementary school. Be the wind chime. Let the wind blow through you. Turn storm into song. As for our recipient, it is not unusual for a high school student to have moments of entropy. And this student certainly had his. What is unusual, however, is for a student to channel focus from that disorder so directly as a senior and to come out of his experience with such a clear direction for his passion and energy. This year's James Rowcliffe Kessler Award recipient is Connor Moore. Remembering some of those moments of entropy right now. The Mother Aloysia Hardy Award for Mind, Body, and Spirit is named for Mother Hardy, the religious of the Sacred Heart, who with courage, fortitude, and unfailing spirit brought Sacred Heart education to multiple continents. With Mother Hardy's example in mind, this recipient is selected by the faculty in the athletics department as the student who has made the most significant contribution to the spirit of the school through athletic participation and leadership, while at the same time committing to a most rigorous course of study. So Mother Hardy, she showed tremendous zeal in her work. She showed fervor. This recipient displayed zeal and fervor as a leader in his athletic pursuits. He lived his athletic life at the Hall out loud. He wasn't a silent one in the classroom either. He was an MVP, a league MVP in the football season, and an all-league track athlete. I'm pleased to award the Hardy Award to Andrew Williams. The Faculty Scholar Award is awarded by faculty to a student who demonstrates a deep respect for intellectual values, whose commitment to learning is infused with deep curiosity and joy. Joy is certainly a word I associate with this young man, and if we awarded a medal for everything this student had been recognized for in the last few days, he would be clinking up here like Jacob Marley in ACT's version of A Christmas Carol. I am pleased to recognize Cooper Lovelace as Faculty Scholar. I am so glad that Dr. Krate Sarek asked for all those alumni to stand up. It's so fun to see you. In fact, Monty, you're like a special bonus. I thought you weren't. So good to see you. Monty, class of 2020. The students in my English class, they did tease me because whenever I tell a story about an alum, actually like I just did with Monty, I'd always include their year. It was as though like I was speaking of their vintage or something like that. And I think that's probably true. Chuck Haycox was never Chuck Haycox. No, he was always Chuck Haycox, class of '06. The pre-acknowledgement at chapel, courtesy of Michael Kean, class of 2013. Just this morning, I had coffee with Vincent Benke, class of 2021. Keenan O'Doherty, class of 2015, visited campus on Monday, and he held some sort of open forum in Dr. Campos's class. I don't know how that happened. Nobody holds open forum in Dr. Campos's class, but Keenan O'Doherty, class of 2015, he did. Last night, I was texting with Alex Bird, class of 2019, who just graduated from Morehouse, mainly with regard to my request to be his driver when he becomes governor of Georgia. There's a story in each of those classes, and there's a story with the class of 2023, to be sure. But it was a conversation with Tim Connolly, class of 2012, that inspired my words for today. Tim just got married, and I ran into him about a month ago, and we were sharing back and forth the best and the worst advice we'd each gotten in advance of our respective weddings. We ended up agreeing that Tim's mom, Mary, gave the best advice. The grass isn't always greener on the other side of the fence. The grass is going to be green where it's watered. Water your side of the fence, and you'll be fine for yourself. Be fully present with whom you are with. Cultivate your side of the fence, and you'll be all right. Now, these days, we're peppered with so many studies, most recently from our Surgeon General, about the mental harm that comes from social media and, among other ills, the idea that everyone else is having a better time of it than we are. Jacob Hubbard, class of 2017, here today to celebrate his brother Joseph, shared with a senior class a few years ago the challenge of that first year of college and seeing everyone else's posts and feeling so sure that everyone was having such a better time than he was. Now, there's an industry that makes money on people feeling this way. And then there are also Instagram artists like Patty O'Neill, whose posts next year will have us all thinking that Patty is having a better time than we are, and he actually might be. But that is because Patty and so many of the young men and women in your class know what it means to be present, to be grateful in the moment, to be grateful in the company of each other. News articles said that students were going to come back to in-person schooling after the pandemic. They'd come back weirder. And you all instead came back from the pandemic closer. You all took care of the side of the fence that you were on. Now, that said, I'm not saying stick it out needlessly. If efforts to cultivate one side of the fence aren't yielding anything, by all means, check out the other side. My grandfather, he found his side of the fence to be brown, not green, and that's saying a lot given that he was in Ireland at the time. So at the age of 18, he came to this country. On his visa, he did not say he was fleeing conscription by the British to fight in the trenches in Europe. He did not write that he had a tough relationship with his father. No, on his visa, he wrote he wanted to see the 1915 Pan-Pacific International Exposition in San Francisco. And now, 108 years later, his grandson is speaking in one of the remaining buildings from that showcase. So by all means, if the grass isn't green in spite of your watering, check out the other side of the fence. Okay, no, wait. Now, what's Farrell doing now? Okay, is he saying going to the other side of the fence? I thought he was saying take care of the side of the fence we're on. What is he saying? Maybe you're thinking, thank God I wasn't a student in this guy's class because he's talking out of both sides of his mouth, and I am. But I'm not talking out of both sides of my mouth when I say, unequivocally, that I am very proud of this group of young men and young women in front of you today. The courageous women who founded these schools over 200 years ago charged themselves to educate in a manner that discovers and reveals the love of God to the world. The point of this education is to create an environment where each student is on a path to discovering and revealing what makes them special, what their unique contribution will be for the betterment of all of us. This group behind me has taken this charge, has watered their side of the fence, and it has been my sincere honor to witness their journey over the last 4 years. Graduates, congratulations.
It is now that time where everyone is going to come forward and take their moment on the stage with the appropriate amount of pride and joy in everything you've accomplished to get that beloved diploma that's going to be in your hands. So I'm going to invite again Dr. Kreitzerik and Mr. Spate and Mr. Guerrero back up to the stage. And we are ready. So, the faculty, administration, Religious of the Sacred Heart, and the Board of Trustees confer diplomas on the following: Lucia Elizabeth Ahern. Callista Georgette Akel. Isabella Alacon. Kira Joanne Blattberg. Clara Firth Bonomi. Colette Rainier Browning. Samantha Josephine Calvin. Emma Cameron. Emma Louise Chongo. Roxanne Oli Comerford. Virginia Lee Cross. Anushka Dadlani. Molly Butler Darling. Coralie Isabel Dauphin. Sophia Lee Davis. Sorry, ladies, we're going to slow it down a little bit, okay? Jardine Alessandra Davis. Audra Christine Dawkins. Cassandra Alexis DeJean. Maria Drago. Noor Alam El-Qadar. Tala Alam El-Qadar. Peyton Sweet Falconer. Nicole Danwen Fang. Josephine Tierney Flanagan. Amelia Lorraine Freud Camerath. Story Linton Golkin. Chiara DeGrazia Hertzgott. Connie Z. Hu. Isabella Cecchini Infacino. Sophie Langdon Jones. Sophia Maya Carty. Julia Rose Kearney. Nicole Klein. Grace Katerina Knott Ramirez. Melanie Frances Koch. McKenna Alexis Kramer. Lily Elizabeth Lawson. Maya Fontaine Lewis. We have a current board member here to confer her own daughter's diploma. So inviting alumna for the class of 1986, by the way, Patricia Munter, to the stage. Catherine Kelly Lumens. Isabella Grace Acosta Mercado. Sydney Audrey Mountain. Stella Newman. Ella Griswold Platinsky. Natalie Davies Posner. Azadeh Bernice Riskin. Anya Rainey Niewiadomski. Audrey Nicole Rumian. Isabella Rovetti. Ella Juliana Maria Ronneboom. Lucy Frances Acree Selko. Grace Blue Sturmer. We have another trustee conferral, current trustee Peter Swartz, coming to the stage to confer his own daughter's diploma. Sage Gretchen Swartz. Amalia Shea Seipold. Sophia Christabel Terry. Sinead Lucy Trevino. Elizabeth Chalfont Woods. Sophia Kamin Wu. and Christine Yu. Congratulations, Convent High School, class of 2023. Mr. Farrell to read the names of the diplomas for Stuart Hall High School.
Ms. Simpson was mentioning that Mother Hardy quote. She has another good one. Never use 3 words when 2 will do. I think my words were shorter than Ms. Simpson's. I think just we're doing the, getting over under 4.5 minutes. Did you take the under? Thank you. Okay. I am thrilled on behalf of the faculty and staff, Board of Trustees, and the Religious of the Sacred Heart to confer the following diplomas. Mateo Norman Buscher. Brock Darius Bizayon. We do have a member of our board. Bill, are you? There we are, okay. So we have a trustee, Bill Brentani. Don't die. Don't die. It's too close. All right. William Thomas Brentani. Thanks, Bill. Finn Erickson Busnell. Lev Benjamin Cohen. Monty Nozato Craig. Michael Sumner Estes III. Israel Ethan Frost. Emil Gazzanori. Elijah James Gordine. Oliver Jack Holzman. Joseph Carlos Hubbard. Tyler Keaton Hummel. Nicholas Ilion Iliev. Brett DeCoit Jasper. JJ Hyun Kim. Alexander Charon Kindler. Vladislav Korostashevsky. Avery Aaron Kruger. And then we have a former trustee here to participate in the conferral of her son's diploma, Martina Lauterbach. Conrad Dieter Lauterbach. Nice. Thank you. Trevor Leung. Leo Langyu Liao. Dashel Lin. Cooper Anderson Loveless. Sterling Luddington Simmons. Dylan James Minville. Connor Blake Moore. Myron Alexander Neiberg. Christopher Deming Nya. Padraig Ross O'Neill. James Bailey Parent. Sorry. Ruben Eli Pearl. Ewan James Peterson. John Harrison Perkins. Spencer Shane Peary. Oliver Coleman Sans Pastor. Zachary John Lewis Schiller. Andrew Brian Scott. Sebastian Anthony Lazard Seidenberg. In absentia, Jacob Robert Lloyd Sharp. Cole Seipolt. Ryan Kenneth Tang. Jack Thomas Tarantino. Alexander Thorin. Iban Uruti. Jalen Zhang Vung. Hayden Walheim. Andrew O'Donoghue Williams. Maximus Cleve Williamson. Jonathan Daniel Wu. Julian Vincenzo Zeppa. Graduates, please stand. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to present to you the Convent and Stuart Hall class of 2023. You may be seated.
Wow, that's kind of wonderful, right? I hope one thing you notice at Convent Stuart Hall, you know, we don't get speakers from the outside. We think the voices of our students are incredible and better than anyone else we could listen to. So we will close with some thoughts and some blessings from two more students. So I invite Cooper Lovelace and Julia Kearney to come forward with some gratitude and wishes for the future. How about a warm welcome for Julia and Cooper?
All right. Good afternoon, Dr. Krate-Zarek, Mr. Farrell, faculty, family, friends, and fellow class of 2023. If you know me, you know that I love numbers. Their simplicity allows them to act as a universal language, one that many can understand, but only few truly do. However, I also know all of you, and that many of you are not fans of numbers. In fact, I can confidently say that being able to close your notability folder for your math class brought you great joy when you finished exams earlier this month. So, in being genuine to both myself and you all, I want to use this time to break down our 4 years at the Hall in terms of numbers and stories. I want to start by flaunting a little bit about all of your academic accomplishments. Over our 4 years together, we have seen 4 schedules, taken anywhere from 24 to 30 classes. We have spent 5,050 hours on campus. Now, if you aren't a math person, I'll put that into perspective. That's equal to 210 24-hour days. In that time, we could have walked across the US twice, flown around the world 112 times, or recited 725,000 digits of pi. But instead, we spent that time with each other. We collectively spent well over 80,000 hours doing homework and preparing for exams, and it turns out our hard work paid off as we graduate here today. I say this only partially to brag about your scholarly achievements, but also to remind you of what we have been able to do during our time at the Hall. We have survived all 5,050 hours of learning despite COVID, virtual, and hybrid school. No matter what the world threw at us, we got through it. As you move on to whatever your next steps may be, remember the 5,050 hours of school you sat through, the 80,000 hours of homework you have completed, and the countless number of trees that have fallen victim to the dreaded handwritten in-class essays you wrote for Dr. Popplewell. So, when you feel like your first college final is impossible, or you don't think you can get that job, remind yourself of what you accomplished in just 4 high school years, and how much you can get, and that you can get through whatever is next. Our time at Stuart Hall goes far beyond academics. Sitting on the stage behind me are 23 different varsity sports captains. During our time, we have had 1 state championship basketball team and have multiple soon-to-be D1 athletes here today. We are part of teams that have brought 11 championship banners back to Stuart Hall that now cover the walls of the dungeon. While our athletic success is important, it's the connections with our teammates that are truly special. Just about a month ago at our senior treat, I think everyone knew that Julian would mention football probably more than once. And guess what? He did, like 5 different times. But one thing he said really resonated with me, and I'm going to quote him here right now, and that is, "The friends that I made on the football team are some of the best friends I have." This experience isn't exclusive to Julian. I can say without a doubt that every person on a Stuart Hall athletics team would agree that the connections we made, no matter if that's being humbled when you made a frosh-off team as a sophomore, or racking up one of those 11 NCS and BCL banners, are so strong. I ask that you hold on to these connections. The friendships that you have built by skipping laps during track warm-ups and on buses to competitions are too strong to be broken. So, put in the effort to keep them. Make that call to the teammate you haven't talked to in a few weeks because you deserve to keep those friendships alive. These bonds are just one illustration of our class's strong sense of community. As we sat in Mr. Emerson's QRS class 4 years ago, we became brothers with the people we sat next to as we tried to fathom how to do 10 hours of service in 1 semester. In partnership with our friends at Convent, we have now contributed to our community with a whopping 12,735 hours of service. even if these hours mostly came from the past few weeks to ensure we could graduate here today, it shows our commitment to others as we spread the Convent and Stuart Hall community to those in need. This commitment to community goes far beyond service. For example, I have 16 Stuart Hall club leaders behind me that are trying to address everything from social justice to hosting riveting ping pong competitions during lunch. Our commitment to our community was really shown in Costa Rica. For those of you who don't know, on our trip to the country in our junior year, we spent a lot of time in the pool. In true Stuart Hall fashion, we found swimming far too boring, so instead, we violently catapulted our friends off of our own shoulders at least 300 times into soaring backflips. Besides the slight panic attacks that Miss McGarva and Miss Sell had as they feared the paperwork that they would have to do if one of us broke a bone, it really showed our sense of community. We challenged classmates who we hadn't interacted with previously and made everyone feel part of the hall, even Bella and Ryan who couldn't swim. In keeping with the theme of numbers, I leave you with 4 things, 4 reminders, 4 requests, 4 wishes. 1, remember your worth. Stuart Hall is a difficult school and each of you have worked hard to be here today. So, no matter what may come next, remember that you deserve to be there and you will be able to accomplish so much. 2, call your friends, your teammates, your coaches, even your teachers if they don't want to hear from you. No matter if you're staying in San Francisco or studying in a new country, I ask that you call and catch up with the people you have bonded with because distance alone should not break the friendships you have made. 3, make sure your community always grows. You have 50 brothers here today that will always have your back. But as you move on, take the heart that you have used to form these connections to grow your community. Take the spirit of Stuart Hall with you always because it's something that should be shared with everyone. And 4, remember always to roll Hall. Thank you, and I wish you all, my brothers, the best of luck.
Good evening, family members, friends, faculty, and of course, the class of 2023. My name is Julia Kearney, and I am honored and grateful to be up here today. I would not be shocked, given the 4 years of being directly or indirectly affiliated with Convent Stuart Hall, that you have heard the term espacio. Espacio, a practice quite unique to the school, is a time, often done at the beginning or end of a particular activity, where everyone sits in reflective, introspective silence. For the Convent class of 2023, we have our own iteration of the word and thus a slightly different accompanying practice. This is known as Estacio, creatively named by the one and only Miss Arce. Estacio preceded every single English class junior and senior year, regardless of how busy an agenda we had. During Estacio, all of us girls would take turns throwing around a falling apart yet iconic blue ball. Once receiving the ball, the student would share a response to a specific prompt. It's important to note now that this ball, while intended to be lightly thrown from individual to individual, almost never successfully made it around the room in a uniform fashion. Someone almost always dropped it, threw it far too short, or chucked it unnecessarily hard. Yes, Melanie, I'm talking about you. Anyways, these prompts, often creative thought of, at least in my F period class by Bella Alarcon, were versatile. For reference, some included our favorite childhood memories, our biggest pet peeves, our phobias, our extended essay topics, or our dreams from the previous night. Melanie, for example, sorry I'm calling you out again, set the tone one Friday afternoon when we were asked to share our favorite childhood memory. And she mentioned a story in which her childhood babysitter accidentally fed her a special brownie. I can guarantee that while Miss Arce did not know what we were going to share, it was certainly not that. On another afternoon, Peyton, when asked to share her extended essay topic, began to relay a handful of words and phrases that nobody in the room understood, yet we all thoughtfully listened to her passionately talk. Or, how could I forget, when we were asked to share our pet peeves, and Sophie noted slow drivers, then proceeded to try, emphasis on the try, to shield a side eye towards me. Of course, while these revealed more comical elements of Estacio, there were also tears. Sydney Mountain is a stark testament to this, for when we engaged in an all-class Estacio at the senior retreat, this time told to share our love for each other, Sydney used almost all of the tissues. Miss Arcee was, of course, prepared. I mention Estacio and its distinctive experiences as I believe that it has been the most unifying practice of our class, and thus is what I want to emphasize before we all depart today. Though the practice itself is rather simple, we grew to understand one another far beyond academics. We grew into convent sisters, sisters who could laugh, smile, and cry together. While I will not blame you for cringing at the term sisterhood, it really is true. We are sisters, and because of the sisterhood that we have built, it makes graduating that much more emotional. With that said, I'm even more excited to see what all my convent sisters will go on to do in the big world. The intelligence, care, and love that resides within each of us will go to change on the world, whether it be publicly recognized or not. We will, however, all know, as we made a pledge to ourselves at the senior retreat, that the Connie Cult group chat, yes, we call ourselves a cult, will stay alive, updating each other on our whereabouts and/or when we run into our teachers in public. With all this said in mind, I would simply like to conclude this speech by relaying gratitude. First and foremost, to the teachers and other faculty members of Convent and Stuart Hall, thank you. For the only reason as to why our class was able to make so many meaningful bonds and memories was because of the environments you created. Whether that be Dr. Jorgensen's Monday afternoon grillings, trying to get us to disclose our weekend whereabouts, Mr. Rafa's patience to deal with our out-of-pocket tangents, or of course, Miss Arcee's Estacio, we felt at home in class and were thus able to vulnerably share who we were and now are. Without this, we really would not have been able to build the sisterhood that we did. So thank you. To the family members and friends sitting here today, thank you for your steadfast support. I can confidently say that while we may not always be the best at expressing our gratitude, we are all incredibly grateful to have you. And last, but certainly not least, thank you to my fellow graduates. There is no other group of young women that could have brought the pride that we did to the, as Miss Arcee says, B-squared stereotype. Well, I'm not permitted to disclose that inside joke to you guys all now. If you look up Convent Girls on Urban Dictionary, you should be able to infer. Thank you all for your attention and time. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you, Julia and Cooper. We're almost at the end. We don't really want it to end, do we? It's such a bittersweet saying goodbye to these beautiful men and women of the Hall, the convent. I do want to tap a little bit into Julia's thank you of the faculty. The secret sauce at Convent and Stuart Hall, of course, are the wonderful individuals that live this beautiful mission and vision. The leadership is incredible. Tony and Rachel, Paul, Caesar, Mike, all of you, everyone, and the faculty. I mean, you hold these children in your hearts, you hold them to standards, you care. So I think before we get to some final goodbyes, I'd love to ask all of the faculty and staff of Convent and Stuart Hall to stand so we can show our gratitude. Would you please stand? I want to thank Ken Savage, who produced this event, and the crew here at the Palace of Fine Arts. It's wonderful to be able to show up and have everything set up. So great appreciation and applause. Let's thank the crew and Ken. And a special thank you to a man who has been my partner as chairman of the board for the last 4 years. We started to reminisce on all the things that have happened the past 4 years, and then we stopped and just had a sense of appreciation for each other. But Mr. Holden Spate did an extra year, so 4 years as leader. Let's give it up for Mr. Spate. And I invite you all, we have a wonderful goûter or reception following this event. And Ken has arranged for some wonderful opportunities for you to capture some magic moments. So there are some photo booth opportunities and special displays. So take your time to really engage in capturing some of these moments. I want to close with just a reflection one more time on our theme for the year. We decide on a theme every year. It's really been a bit of a guiding light. And this year it's curiosity. Seems like that should always be the theme. But a wonderful author who came to visit, Jason Reynolds, shared with us these thoughts. Be as open as possible. You are only as good as your imagination will allow, and your imagination is only as strong as your curiosity provides. And so you must live a curious life. So it is my wish that these young men and women continue to live a curious life, and I know they will. But let's take this moment to have a little energy in the room as we ask these graduates to commence. So graduates, can I have you stand with a little energy? Let's hear it, a little energy. So we present to you the class of 2023. Congratulations.